Hello, everyone, and welcome to Intentional Man, our devotional series that we're doing. Dwayne, how are you doing? Dwayne is my co-host.
I'm doing
How's life
good, brother.
going?
It
Great.
fast and furious, but it's good.
That's awesome. I love having my one of my best friends on here today. Dwayne, we're on chapter 5. I didn't think we'd ever get to this chapter. We're on chapter 5,
Yeah,
and it's entitled Serving. And I want to read this uh verse that we have in this chapter. It's Philippians 2, 3 through 8. It says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humanity count others more significant than yourself. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others. Have this mind among yourself, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form. He humbled himself to become obedient to the point of death, even death on the cross." And I'm reading this book right now for one of my other podcasts entitled Jesus, His Life and Mine. And it's going through uh, the Christ journey. I wanted to have a relationship with with Jesus, and what better way to have a relationship with someone by knowing who he was when he was a man on earth, you know? And so I'm kind of going through that, but Jesus, he served others when he was here on earth. He was serving others, and that's where I kind of want to go to here. I don't want to go through everything that's written in here because I want them to read it, and then either you're watching this before you read it. I would suggest read the chapter first, and then watch this, and then get with your other accountability partner or your small group and discuss this. But um, serving is very important to me, Dwayne, and I'm going to
yeah,
tell you just a small part of my story. Our church is a set up and tear down church, which discussed in this chapter, and we meet in we started off meeting in a elementary school, and we come in and we would change the whole dynamics. We don't want people to see a gym cafeteria.
right.
We put curtains up, we put things up, and we came in. And when me and my wife first went to church there, we were hurting so bad, and it I can't tell you the pain that we felt. We were lost. We were hurting from just bad choices in our own life, right? And we found that once I got involved in the production team. We would get there at 5 a.m. Sometimes we wouldn't leave until 2 p.m. And we'd go home. We'd be wiped out, and we would need a nap, right? But we loved it because when you start serving others and you're helping others, you get outside of yourself.
Yeah,
It helps you to get away from that pity party. Me and my wife, we have come out of this, but we have had a history of catastrophizing things in our life. Like nobody else's life is worse than ours, and things happen to us, right? But that's life. Everybody goes through that. And one of the best ways to comfort yourself and to get past it is when you're feeling that way, go do something for somebody else.
exactly.
Serve somebody else, and
Yeah,
you're going to find that. And it's not just at church. I believe a lot of church. I love our church for the simple fact they present a lot of opportunity to serve. They're constantly, and not just because they're set up and tear down church. We have what we call Love Week, Love Month, where we go um, take the month of June or July, and what we do is we hit our community and we serve our community in different ways to let because in serving others you're bringing them hope and love that a lot of people aren't feeling. And then what happened
yeah,
was next thing you know, that started filling our cup, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And we were
Yeah, there's nothing better than seeing a smile on someone's face because you care.
yeah,
And when I was pastoring last, we did a thing. I was just standing in front of the congregation. We were running probably like 300, 350, maybe 400 people. But I would just stand up. It was we were getting into the Christmas season. It was just right after Thanksgiving, and God just put this thought in my head, and I'm like, I pulled out $100 bill, and I said, I want to know how many people will give $100 to for us to go out in the community, go into a store, and pray that God will lead us to that one person that needs $100,
mm,
either for their food, gas, Christmas, whatever. And within I wouldn't even say 5 minutes, probably 2 minutes, we had 15 people stand up and hold up a hundred
wow,
dollar bill. And then I had more come in. I think we ended up with like $2,000.
right,
And we got a group of people together and said, "All right, you're responsible for $200. You're responsible for $300." And but the agreement was you will go and you will pray.
yeah,
And the greatest one to me was when my wife, she had $200 she was responsible for, and she went and she was praying and just walking the store and walking the store, and I'm like, "Will you please give out that money?" I'm just like, "I wanna go home," but she just kept holding out and holding out, and there was this lady that, we were in a department store, and God laid on her heart to go and speak to her, tell her about the love of Jesus, and give her that. She had 4 kids, and just little beautiful children, and she gave her that $100, and she broke down, and she started crying.
mm,
And she looked at her babies and she said, "Sweetheart, you can pick out anything that you want right here." They were in
mm,
the yogurt aisle,
right,
you know, but they wanted yogurt, they couldn't afford it, and that allowed them to do that.
yeah,
And serving, it's not always about money, it's about time and everything. But, in that situation, it was about time and it was about money. But, oh, it was such a blessing, and then
what's about fulfilling someone's need outside of your
yes,
need.
yeah. And it changed our lives for that Christmas.
Mhm,
We'd always gone overboard for our children and grandchildren, and we're like, "We're gonna trim back. We're gonna trim back because we need nothing." God has blessed us. We need nothing. We're still gonna buy each other gifts and so forth, but as a family, we have begun that. That is what we do, as we
yeah,
go and we will give. And, whatever the means are, $100, $20, $10, buy a meal for the person behind you, whatever.
yeah.
But it's such a blessing when you seriously seek it out and pray for God to direct you to that person that's in need. And it's amazing.
One year, our church did, Christmas for a Cause, and what we did was, um, we have a great worship team, and so we did a concert at the beach, and it was cold. It does get cold
Yeah.
sometimes in Florida, especially
Yeah.
by the water, but it was so
Yeah.
beautiful. We did a Christmas program there, and we broadcasted it, and a mission we had a mission was, bringing coats, and it was new, bringing brand new coats, shoes, and socks, and gloves, and scarves, and hats for the homeless.
Yeah.
Dwayne, we had easily over 1,000 people who showed up to that. I wanna say it was probably about
That's
1,500
amazing.
people that showed up, brought that. The best joy that we had was me and my wife, we got to be a part of I was a part of the production team that put it on, but then we got to go, um, the next Saturday, and we went and distributed that to the homeless people. I we cried, the whole
Mm,
day because
yeah.
those simple gifts of giving to these people who had nothing and helping them out. And me and my wife were going through some things at that time. And let me tell you, by the end of that day, our problems seemed small.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, in the business I work in, you know, I oh, this past Sunday was awful. You know, we missed podcast last week, and you know, and I love this, and missing that it set me back. And busy week, crazy stuff going on, and Sunday was just a tough day for me.
Mhm.
I woke up, I didn't know what was the problem, but it was just like this cloud went over me all day, and but then I got to work, and then it all came back. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, uh, my not everything's going my way right now, but you know what? I'm not attending my loved one's funeral.
Yeah.
And that I was sitting, I was running the sound and stuff for the service, and it just hit me. It's like, hey, I could be one on the front row instead of back here.
Mhm.
Directing a funeral and running sound. It could be me in attendance for for one of my loved ones. And
Correct.
that's the thing is it no matter how bad our situation is, if we will go and serve, we will have a better day. I
We
I
will.
remember a man I used to work with. He complained all the time. His name was Charlie, and he just everything was just doom and gloom. Everything was awful. And this other guy walked up to him one day and he said, "Well, Charlie, what makes you think that your life and your problems are bigger than anybody else's?" And Charlie looked at him and said, "Because they're mine."
Yep.
There's truth in that. But
Yep.
we have to get past that and say, "Yes, my problems are big. My problems are mine, and they're relevant to me, but I wanna get past that by serving and
Yep.
sharing and giving to someone else."
Because what
And
happens when we
it
have
works.
problems is we start focusing on our problem, the parts that we have no control over,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly,
And
yes.
so then that preoccupies our mind. And next thing we're miserable from that. And that's why
Yeah,
serving is so great. Do what you can with your problems. Be
yeah,
proactive with the problems that are in your life. But then there's a point where you have to give it over to God. And some of the best ways to get over something is to give towards others. And I think one of the
yeah.
problems that a lot of people do, they want the church to show them where to serve. Now, I go to a great
Oh,
church and they provide service opportunities, but let me tell you, God commands you to serve one another. And you don't
mhm,
have to wait for your church to bring that serving moment out. You have them. My wife has such a generous heart. And we went out to eat one time and there was this old man and it was at Po Folks. Love me some Po Folks.
oh, yeah.
And there was this he had to be in his 80s sitting over there and you saw him counting his money and he wanted a banana pudding, but he only had enough for the food that he had. And my wife went and found that waitress, and she said, "We're buying his meal, and you're going to give him some banana pudding, and whatever he ordered today, put in a make another meal, put it in a box so he can take it home, and do not let him know it was us."
Yeah.
You know, me and my wife, we sat over there to the side. The waitress came and the guy went to give his money, and she brought the banana pudding and said, "Sir, it's been taken care of." And she said, "Sir, someone also they wanted you to take some food home with you too." And he just broke down and cried. I'm getting goosebumps as I tell you this because
Yeah.
and there's something in serving other people. That was let me tell you that man's meal cost $10. We spent
Mm.
$20 on that gentleman, but to him that might as well have been $500. You
Oh, yeah.
know? And he
Just
left
knowing
there
someone cared.
yeah, and he left there weeping over the generosity, and I'm thankful, and I don't tell that story to brag on us.
No,
I tell it to
no.
brag on my wife because it wasn't my idea. I'm stingy with my money. But my wife, me and her we have an agreement that if God is telling us to be generous, we're going to listen to one another on
Yeah.
that, and we're going to obey because we have been there when other people have been generous and have served us, and it has made the the difference in our life,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You can't
And
outgive God.
no,
You
you
just
can't.
can't.
You can't.
And I could share story after story of going all the way back to Bible college when, it just when you give that sacrifice, that widow's mite,
Yep.
and then God just
A
smiles upon you.
and
It's
you don't have to be a pastor, you don't have to be in Bible college to do all this. Every
no,
day, I
no.
think an intentional man, wake up and say, "God, who can I serve today?
Yep,
Who can I make smile today?" Who
yep,
Because when we serve, you know what we're doing too? We're sharing God.
yep,
We're sharing his hope and his love. And so that's what we wanna encourage these guys today in this because this is a really crucial this was a game changer for me. If you're just sitting in the pew, you're just taking up space,
yeah.
you know? And it doesn't have to be at church, at your work. That's your ministry too. At work,
Exactly.
how are you serving those coworkers? Are you coming in being a whiny, gripey person and making everyone's day terrible? You could serve others by having a better attitude, you know?
Yeah, it could be that simple, but that's a hard
It
task
really
for
can.
some people,
That
you know?
is. And
But you were
it
so
was
right.
hard for me to admit that we were catastrophizing things, but then I was like, "We're those people." And our problem we had to realize that our problems were not just unique. I'm like Charlie, they were our problems, but you know what? I wasn't having faith in God that he would take care of it, and once we started serving others, it's poured over into my life. I love my job that I have now because now I'm serving others. And every job I've
Yep,
had, I've tried to find a way, how can I serve others?
yep,
And we're gonna get right on to this. I don't think we have to draw this out today. I want to ask you guys, this is what you need to do. How are you currently serving others? That's an important question that you need to discuss amongst each other and be honest because some of you maybe you're not serving others. You know, and discuss how how can you do it? And you guys who are serving others, let me ask you this share with these other men how serving others has blessed you. Because
absolutely.
it is like Dwayne said, me and Dwayne, we could go for 2 hours here or more on the blessings we receive from helping others, you know? But you need to share that with one another that God's
Yeah,
brought you together doing this devotional with. And then the last thing is how can your way of thinking here's a tough one. Uh-oh. How can your way of thinking be changed through the generosity of serving others? And some of you, you're not going to even understand this until you do it. Sometimes serving is just being obedient and obeying, you know, being in a mind of prayer and taking that step that, you know what, today I'm going to do something outside of my comfort zone
yeah,
and I'm going to serve someone. I'm going to get outside of my own problems, my own things, and and let me encourage you. Don't go do it for the glory. Do it anonymously if
yeah,
you can.
yep, yep.
You know,
And the thing to realize too, Mike, is, you use the word generosity. Generosity isn't just money.
correct.
The most valuable thing that we possess that God has granted us and given us and blessed us with is time.
You're
We can
y-
make more money, but it takes time to make money. It
yeah.
takes time to build a relationship. It takes time. Time is everything.
Yeah.
When
And
we won't go into all this, but the time thing is set for man. That's all dispensational and all this talk. But time is the greatest blessing that God has given us, and it's limited.
Yep.
Spend your time wisely.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
generosity, if you are generous with your time, you are the most generous person in the world because you may not have finances. But if you're the richest man in the world, and we know some, and I promise you, they're not being generous to us.
Yes.
You know, they're investing their time in other things. You know, so the greatest commodity, the greatest thing, the most valuable thing we possess is our time.
Yep.
And if we invest that greatest blessing that God has given us in serving, we will receive the greatest blessing.
Yep.
As you give, you shall receive. You give your time, God will pour blessing upon you in ways you will never, ever, ever understand.
And we're gonna close with that. I can't say it any better than that, and, you know, you guys talk amongst each other about this
Yes,
because you hit it right on. It's not all about money. Sometimes it's the time. Sometimes someone just needs someone to talk to. Just 2 weeks ago, I sat down. My pastor is one of the busiest men I've ever met, and I said, "Pastor Tim," I said, "you know," and I've never done this with him, but I said, "Hey, can I get 30 minutes of your time one day? I want to talk to you about some things going on, and I just want to talk to you." We spent almost 3 hours at lunch that day. He carved out, and I'm gonna tell you, he blessed me so much because I know how valuable his time is, and him sharing that time with me told me how valuable I was to him,
exactly.
you
Exactly.
know? And so I let's close with that. Guys, we're on chapter 5. We're getting ready to go to chapter 6 this week. Find a way to serve one another. And until then, just keep being intentional. Talk to you later.
Right.